the lead of this team, creating that environment where people feel really safe. Because honest to goodness, walking through the front door of a CrossFit was the hardest thing for me. I don't know any of this stuff.
Sure.
I didn't lift. I didn't know, squats or anything. I'm a 55-year-old dude who probably does not fit the typical CrossFit prototypical model. But honestly, I just fell in love with it because of the coaching, because of the teamwork, because of the belonging sense. People really care about you.
I'm K.Y.L.E, and this is the Know Your Leading Edge podcast. Well, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for this episode. We've got a special one here. I get a chance to talk to my great friend, Dr. Paul Gordon, and one of the very first, if not really the first guest for the Know Your Leading Edge podcast. So very honored to have you here, Dr. Paul.
Thank you, Kyle. Honored to be here. Excited for the opportunity to have a conversation with you.
Cool. Well, I'm going to just talk to you a little bit about Paul's background, and then I'm going to kick it off over there. So Paul is currently, and just for a very short time, the superintendent of the Wenatchee School District, and is headed down the road back to Illinois for a second stint there, soon to be the superintendent of the St. Charles School District. Paul has a Bachelor of I don't even know. It's a BA, right?
Yep.
So Bachelor of Arts in English and Secondary Education from Metro State in Colorado. He's got his Master's in Administration and Supervision, which is an awesome degree that I've never heard of, from the University of Pheonix. And then finally a Doctorate in Educational Leadership from Fielding Graduate University in Santa Barbara. So, Paul, awesome to have you here. Can't wait to learn from you.
Let's go.
Cool.
Let's
Tell
do
us
this.
about your family, first of all. Your family's getting ready to pack up and get a lot closer. Tell us about what's happening over there.
Yeah, our family is on the move again. It's been an amazing 3 years here in the Wenatchee Valley. But a calling came to be closer to our family. My son lives in downtown Chicago. My daughter lives in New York. And my wife and I just made a family first decision that said, we need to get closer to our kids. You never stop being a parent. Our kids are, my daughter is 25 and she's amazing. My son is 26 and, both really amazing, but we really feel like we're starting to miss really critical parts of their life by being so far away. And then I have this incredible wife, Marianne, that we've been married for 27 years and going strong. So our family just said, let's get a little more close in proximity and let's come together. And now we just learned that my daughter is going to move to Chicago as well. So the Gordon family will be in the same state, which is exciting.
That's great. When was the last time you guys were all together that way?
Oh boy, it would be 3, Gabriella 4, so 7 years since we've been, because Gabriella went to University of Kansas and it was a little Jayhawk for 4 years, came home for 2 weeks and moved to New York. So
how about that?
she
Lawrenceville, Kansas to New York.
Yeah, a little change.
Slightly. Sure.
So just growing up and I think that, the kids are also excited for us to be close and to be able to do things together. Not all the time, but here on some weekends, a couple weekends out of the month, just hanging out.
Yeah. We're recording this a day after Father's Day, and I wonder what will that mean? What has it meant, one, to sort of transition into this period of life as a father of now adult children, and how do you reconcile that from day to day, right? Like, I have 2 daughters that are young. You've met them both, and I can kind of see glimpses of what life would be like, but I can't imagine going 10 days without seeing my child. Tell me about how you and Marianne have sort of moved into this next stage of your life.
The thing that we realized was you never stop parenting. And at times it becomes even more challenging because some of the issues they're facing are bigger and sometimes a little uglier and harder. and you're not there, you can give feedback, and sometimes they listen to guidance, but they're making choices. And what you really hope is during that time when they were under that roof with you, that you were teaching them the right values, the right ethics, the right way to problem solve. And we're seeing a lot of that, but we're also seeing some time that our kids need us a little bit more, a little closer. So it is hard. It's been hard because for 3 years, either the kids have to fly to us, spend a week with us, or we head out there. So you don't have that day-to-day contact. You don't have that monthly contact that you really miss. And I think it's in those moments of sitting around just watching a Avalanche hockey game where you're able to have a quick conversation with your son on different things than hockey or anything else, but on life. Right. And those were the pieces that we were really missing, were those quick connections. And seeing those people that they're bringing into their lives that aren't their parents or their sibling, and getting to know them. So I think the parenting continues. It's very different, and we've learned that our parenting is more listening. And that's sometimes hard because you want to give your great, feedback and advice. But we've learned to listen a heck of a lot more, because that's what we believe our kids are looking for, is somebody to talk to ground their thinking. Yeah. So yeah, it has changed. It's changed a lot, but it's been a good change. And my wife, thank God for her. I mean, she's the one who really is that bond and that glue that keeps our family just cruising along. Because on good times, the kids will call me, but when they're struggling, they call Mama Bear, and she's the one who really steps into that area.
Shout out to Marianne. She is pretty awesome. I already miss you, lady. Well, tell us about young Paul. How do you come to be the superintendent now? Is this thrice?
My next one will be thrice. Yeah.
So how does young Paul go from growth of a young person all the way to this stage?
Young Paul loved playing sports. Not really good at it, but I loved it. I was like, if there was a fifth string, that was where Paul was. Paul wasn't on the field very much, but Paul loved being part of team. Even when we were just playing in the neighborhood, loved teams, loved sports, loved that connection to other people, but also loved the competition in doing those pieces. But I didn't, early on, I wasn't like, oh, I want to be a teacher. I want to do this. That came later when I realized how much I did love athletics and doing that work. And like many of us, we had a mentor that kind of jumped into your life and said, what are you doing? Yeah. Go into this field.
Who was that for you?
For me, it was Deb Capra.
Yeah.
Just this incredibly influential person who today I still continue to reflect on her guidance and feedback. And her husband was a legend in Colorado coaching football, Dominic Capra, who unfortunately we lost way too young due to cancer. But she introduced me to him and just started coaching, just doing some volunteer coaching. Mm-hmm. And really just made connections, and like, I see the teaching, I see the coaching, and it became clear then that I needed to go into education, and that was going to be that area. And I love books, I love writing, so English became that area for me. Yeah. But I really thought I was going to be, this high school English teacher and coaching football, because I loved it. I loved every aspect of it. I loved Friday nights. Yeah. And that's really what set me on the pathway. But again, Deb tapped me on my shoulder one more time and said, okay, you're done here. You need to move into administration. And that's what kind of started me on that pathway.
Wow. Pretty cool to have somebody speak into your life that way, huh?
It really is. It just, because they see, I think other people see you in different lights and see your strengths, your weaknesses. And not everybody's willing to step into that space and offer you that advice. Deb was and continues to be just this strong human who just always has looked out for me and countless others. So big shout out to Deb Capra.
Very cool. That's fantastic. So moving into administration, you move away from the connection that you really have, grounded in what can sometimes be like really delayed fruit, right? As a coach, Dominic probably fell in love with, as most coaches do, the real depth of impact that they have with young people. After I follow up with this, I'm going to ask you about what made Dominic special and what do you think about as a great coach. But how have you reconciled moving away from that day-to-day impact and moving into larger and larger scale? And what's gained and lost by making that move?
It was hard early on. Hard the day. I'll never forget the day that I woke up and I knew I was done coaching. I had coached for 9 years, and it doesn't make sense, but high school sports, I mean, it was 7 days a week.
Sure.
It's a lot. And we had a young family. My wife, again, shout out to her, but she, during the football season, had a lot on her plate there, while she, too, was working full-time. But it was hard making that transition into administration. But I recognized early on, and again, help with colleagues and other mentors, seeing the impact. For me, I went to become an assistant principal, and seeing that at the AP level, I was making a difference. But then I did that for 2 years, and then we had the opportunity to become a principal of Westlake Middle School out in Broomfield, Colorado. And I still today, I never had one day going to that job where I was like, oh, I can't. I loved being the principal of Westlake Middle School. I was like every day because of team. And that's what it came back to.
Got it.
Was really creating a strong team around me, understanding my strengths, my weaknesses, hiring people who really filled my many weaknesses, and really trying to make that into that team atmosphere. So that's how I replicated that work from the football field into the principalship, was understanding that team. It doesn't have to just stop on the athletic field.
Yeah.
Team is everywhere you're at, and as a principal, again, overseeing all of it and making sure that our impact in our system was impacting each student. So we had 950 students at our middle school, and when I first got there, it was known as this drug-ridden, gang-ridden, really bad school. And in Colorado, there was a lot of choice, so parents could choose to take their kids to any school. And there were 8 middle schools, and people were transferring out of our school left and right. And then we were right on the border of Boulder County, which has some high academic schools, So we're getting hit on both sides. Like, kids were leaving us, families were leaving us. And our academics were one of the lowest in the district, and we literally came together, and it was a we concept, and it ended up being the highest performing middle school in the district, recognized by the state. But the piece that I was most proud of was the pride in which the community saw in Westlake, and they loved bringing their kids there to the point where we had a wait list. We did tours. People wanted to be a part of it, and the staff, they just bought into that. Because everybody wants that success. Everybody wants their organization, their team, whatever it is, to be better and thriving. And I really think that's where I learned some of my early leadership. It's not about Paul Gordon.
Sure.
It was about all these other people, and my role was to, how do I amplify their voices? How do I lift them up? How do I support them so they could do their really hard work? Because my work was no longer coaching quarterbacks,
sure,
wide receivers, running backs, teaching kids how to write or the intricacies of how to read. Mine was now trying to create a system that was really working for all kids at a school level. So that gave me a lot of juice and why I loved it. And then having the Sue Malleys of the world, the Jenny Edgerleys of the world, just teammates that we would laugh, cry, but we would come together, try figure out our biggest problems of the day. Team.
Cool. That's awesome. So we'll turn the corner on this a little bit,
okay,
and we'll talk a little bit about CrossFit.
Yeah.
So your brother owns a gym, has for a long time. It wasn't anything that necessarily grabbed you for quite a period of time, but then we actually met as a part of a former gym, the Inner Circle gym. But now, why CrossFit? What does it do for you, and why CrossFit?
And this sounds weird, but I couldn't imagine my life not having it as a part of who I am.
That's awesome.
And that would not, again, to know me, you would not think that that's never been a part of my life.
Sure.
I used to work out, but I was the guy who would work out for a little bit, wander around the gym, and then try to go find the sauna or the hot tub and be done for the day. My brother, who owns South Aurora CrossFit, and he's just been in it for years. And I was like, what is your problem? Mm-hmm. For his age group, he was in the top 50 within the world. Just an incredible athlete. And I never really understood it.
Okay.
And he'd speak passionately about it.
Right.
Like you, Kyle. He just believes in it and understands the power in which CrossFit can help people transform their lives. Not even just from a physical standpoint. And that's, to me, the piece that I've loved most. It's the connection and belonging. I love walking into Leaf. It's our coaches, but mostly it's the 5 a.m. crew.
Yeah.
There's a cool thing that's been happening lately where, in the morning stretch, at times you're going to start seeing people come to sitting together in a circle, and they want to hear each other's stories from the day before or the morning and just to share.
Yeah.
But there's also this aspect of challenging yourself, of failure.
Sure.
And believe me, K.Y.L.E knows this. This was not pretty. This is, I've been part of CrossFit. And one of the guys asked me this morning, how long have you been doing it? I think 7 months total. And it is transformational. And honestly, I love it. And I hate when I miss a day because it's that kind of connection. But it's kind of what we're talking about earlier around team. And you as, the lead of this team, creating that environment where people feel really safe. Because honest to goodness, walking through the front door of a CrossFit was the hardest thing for me. And feeling like I was connected, because when I first walked in, and Kyle knows this, there were some serious athletes, Nate and Taylor, Stephanie, who would crush everybody.
Sure.
You walk in, and I don't know any of this stuff.
Sure.
I didn't lift. I didn't know, squats or anything. I'm a 55-year-old dude who probably does not fit the typical CrossFit, prototypical model. But honestly, I just fell in love with it because of the coaching, because of the teamwork, because of the belonging sense. People really care about you. And I can't tell you how often early on, especially early on, I'm telling you people, it was bad. How the whole group really helped me through different aspects, just quick little tips. Remember when Nate came over when I was trying to do pull-ups and just giving little feedback. That doesn't happen in other places.
Sure.
It just doesn't.
Yeah.
So for me, it was that community, that team, that belonging. And I love when new people come in. Mitchell and Sarah are new in the 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And I love seeing how they're being brought in as part of kind of the 5 a.m. family, and everybody belongs in there. So it's just good stuff.
Good. You're talking about a lot about the power of that community, and I'd love for you to talk a little bit about some of the things that you are an expert at in the world here, some things that you're really sort of noodling around. So the power of relationships and the impact on belonging in a group.
Yeah.
You're writing a book about inclusivity. You're talking about a lot of these different things. Talk to me about those points, relationships and belonging.
as I've been doing this work from coaching way back in the day to superintendent leadership, you really start boiling things down, and it's still all about relationships and wanting to care and connect with people. Because at the end of the day, do I have a lot of technical knowledge over my time that I built up? Absolutely. Yeah. I've got some really good technical pieces. But I'll tell you what, those relationships matter more than anything else. Because that's where that trust, that's where that comes in. I had to trust Kyle that he was going to put me in a really safe place.
Sure.
For me to walk through the CrossFit doors at Leaf, I had to have trust in Kyle, and that was that relationship that Kyle and I built. It's the same thing across the board. If you're coaching, if you're leading a small business, you're an entrepreneur, if you're leading a 12,500 student district, all those pieces, I still see the same things that I was doing as a coach and learning. I'm just honing my skills. People want to belong. That's a human need, is to connect with others. When we see struggles in the world, when we see some of our youth struggling, choosing gangs or choosing some violent outcomes, when you look deep inside of it, it is this lack of belonging and wanting to belong. In the Wenatchee Valley, our district has been a leader in really trying to help youth in this gang environment. And we really listened to former gang members. It was the same thing. It wasn't a lack of love.
Yeah.
It was a lack of connection.
Yeah.
And a lack of belonging. So I continue to see that in everything we do, and really trying to make sure that any organization I'm part of has that connection, that relationship, and we build on those relationships. Yeah. And Kyle, I know this, you don't like hearing this, but that's what drew me to you right away in Inner Circle. Kyle, he wasn't our normal coach at the 5 a.m. or 5:30, whatever it was back then. But the first time I met Kyle, it was like, okay, this is a dynamic dude who's about relationships. Right away, you connected on just that simple level of knowing our names.
Sure.
And the next time we're back. So you start building that trust right away and building relationships so people can say, oh, that guy has my back. He's going to put me in the best position. And I think about that for everything we do. My team, I have a cabinet team. They have to trust, and I had to build relationships over time that said, no, I'm gonna put us in the best position, but more importantly, I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna listen some more, so I hear exactly where you're at and hear your needs and your struggles, so I can help create a better situation. And that's what I see Leaf doing. Yeah. Honest to goodness, that's what I see you doing each time when you're working with the group. When we have, again, high-level athletes, I'm on the far end of just learning. But you've got some really technical athletes in our 5 a.m., but you're there coaching them as well and making sure they're being connected and that they know they belong, even though you've got some maybe more beginners in that class, but they are each being connected with. And that's what makes it so cool. No matter where you're at and what you're doing.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, it's that's the thing that we're aiming for all the time. The connection and the people are why I've always wanted to coach to begin with. I've tried to think I'm all right at a few things in my life, but for whatever reason, the thing that's been most natural for me has always just been getting to know you, asking you where you want to go, and then saying, do you mind if I come along and see if I can offer you something that might help you? And that's really, honest to goodness, the driving force of every day that I wake up. It can sometimes be annoying, right? Because people will ask me about my goals, but mostly my goals are tied to your goals. And if you're feeling great about yourself, then the end of my day is better. I mostly think about other people's endeavors. What is Paul? What can I do to help Paul in this situation? And Paul just drove all the way across the country. I mean, you come across my head probably 4 times, right? Next week when you sail away, I'll and the same kind of thing. So I really feel fortunate to be gifted in a way to really care deeply about people. And as a coach and as a teacher, I don't think that there's any way you ever shut that off. And
people feel it.
Yeah.
We talk to students all the time about teachers.
Sure.
Like, so what's a great teacher?
Yeah.
And every time, it's not about their technical knowledge of English, math, art, PE, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's always the piece that you just talked about, that you just spoke about, is that I care about people, that I care about the students, I care about my class, I care about the members in Leaf Gym. That's what they're saying as well. So from our youngest, I'm certified as oldest, that's what we're all looking for, is somebody that we have that connection with, that relationship, and ultimately that trust. And handing over trust to somebody, especially in a gym, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And for kids, it's a lot to hand over trust. But they say it on a continuous basis, exactly what you were talking about, Kyle.
Cool.
It's that piece. Again, why I believe all humans are looking for that. That's what we want.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. So let me tell you, I'd love to learn a little bit about maybe some of the stories that you're proud of in your own development.
Yeah.
In the gym. Maybe some goals that you've reached, maybe some things that you're still struggling with that you're hopeful to reach. So what do you got there?
Well, today was a pretty cool day for me.
Okay, why so?
We were doing our deadlifts.
Yeah.
And today I did 305 for an old guy.
You hit 305?
I did.
By the way, this is a poor coaching job because I was coaching that class and didn't know we were at 305.
But it was super cool.
Okay.
Because, again, the way you're coaching, the technical side of things, and that's not who I am. So I'm really honed in on watching you, know, when we're going through with the PVC pipe and like understand, okay, I got to push those knees in and make sure that I'm not floating the bar, sticking that big toe in the ground, all those little pieces.
Sure.
So that was really cool.
Okay.
That was cool. But a few weeks ago, probably 6 weeks ago, you made one little tweak on my kipping for chest to bars.
Okay.
I was all over the place.
Okay.
And you're like, when you're at the top, you got to push away.
Sure.
And it was just that little coach, that little technique, and all of a sudden, I'm able to put those pieces together.
Yeah.
My cleans, I'm starting to feel confident in.
Okay.
And that's what we had talked about a while ago. You know, I had left arm and like is flying out there like a chicken wing, and you were just coaching those little pieces along to start feeling more confident in the work we're doing. So, yeah, my goals are just to continue slowly getting better. Yeah. Slowly, you know, I want to be able to do a muscle up before I leave in a week and a half.
Okay, so man. All right, we got some work.
Yeah, we got a lot of work.
No. You've got all the strength pieces. We just got to put them together.
But I love it. I can't tell you how much I enjoy it, you know, because I get up at around 4, but I am like, every time, even though I'm a little tired, I'm like, but every time I'm so glad that I came in because I leave with energy. I feel good. One, it's that team, but two, there's that little bit of sense of pride.
Yeah.
Things are good. I had a guy today, he said, you know, he's similar age to me, Scott. He's like, man, you're my inspiration for coming in here. I'm like, what?
That's great.
What?
Yeah,
so it's cool. Yeah, I just love it. I really do. I've enjoyed it. I enjoy just being around you, Kyle. I mean, you give me energy and strength and continue to fill my bucket around all sorts of things, but continue to grow me as a new person into the CrossFit and why I've just fallen in love with it. Every time I tell my brother, he's like, what happened to you?
Really? That's
he's
cool.
Like, dude, you hate, So now I'm like, hey, I did this, I did that. So it's fun.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, back in Chicago, not too far from where you're going, is my younger brother, and it took me, I've been CrossFitting now 7 or 8 years, and the first 5, 6 of those, my brother wasn't on board with it either. I've tried to tug on him, bring him in. A couple times he dropped in with me here and there. But now out there in he's at CrossFit Thunderbolt, which is in the Aurora. I'm not exactly sure which sort of township or what suburb they're in, but he's in Aurora, Naperville area, and they're like 2 years into their CrossFit journey. My sister-in-law is in there. My nieces are in there. Someday my nephew will get in there, and when it grabs a hold of you and it changes you,
it does.
It does some pretty magical things. Not only the things you're talking about physically, but it really does. It builds in new confidence into who you are. So one of the things that I've been working really hard on in our business is to make sure that we're really clear on who we're trying to serve and what we're doing. It's one thing to sort of slap values onto things, but what do those values look like in action? And so last week I did a much deeper dive into that, really wanting to make sure what am I aiming for? And I'm gonna grab my. So I made a quick note on this. See if I can find it. So this notion of this word kept emerging in my reflection time, and it's the word fortified. And I was trying to think about what kind of values I'm trying to build into the people that walk through our door and cross our threshold. And so a person who's fortified is prepared for anything, anytime, and grateful to the obstacle for the opportunity, right? The opportunity to actually say, no, this is the obstacle. That's what this is why I'm here every day. And now I get the opportunity to overcome this thing. A person who is resolute, right? Unwavering under pressure, strong enough to stare into the eye of the storm and never yield. We inside the walls of the gym, we end up testing and failing a lot and comparing and to ourselves, to our former selves, to the person next to us, to somebody's age, to these expectations we build up. But I want people to stare into it and know that they're prepared and be resolute and just say, this is where I'm headed. And then finally, the last one and we've already talked about this. I mean, these are the things we're trying to build, is connected, right? The strength of the tribe is really in the connection to one another, right? And the sense of tribe is important to people, where we're talking about gangs. We're talking, my young daughter, I see her, she's 12. She just wants to find something to connect to. Doesn't matter what, right? It could be positive, could be negative. I could take her to a church youth group. I could take her to a gang jumping, right? Like
absolutely.
Whatever, as long as somebody is caring that I'm putting my hand up, you recognize that I'm alive and somehow I belong here, is such a powerful thing.
Huge.
And so the connection that we want to build for people, right? If we can find a way to reach into people's lives, fortify them so that any obstacle they see is opportunity, that they know they've done all the work so they can stand against the wind, and that behind them is a tribe of people. Like, you have a place that's pretty special there. So that's where we're working. Yeah, that's where we're
that is. And it's overcoming those obstacles, knowing there's going to be a lot of failure, but that you have your tribe behind you. And that you're going to slowly overcome each one of those, again, with great coaching, great people to support you and lift you up when you are just an absolute dumpster fire, and they're there for you. I love those values. And I love that you said that, because we talk about that a lot in our school district. We can slap a lot of words up on the wall, but do we live those? Can people see our values in action? Yeah. And you literally can see the values of Leaf in action each day, coming through and really working every day to improve your skills, to improve where you're at, to have those connections. That's what Leaf is all about. And it does. It gives you confidence. I had zero confidence walking in here. And one day you and I were talking about there, like, you don't demonstrate that as somebody who doesn't have, and I was like, oh my God, Kyle, inside, we all have some kind of little crazy in our head where we're really having to battle through, that confidence. And when you have values like that, as a member, you feel like, again, I've said this before, you've got my back. you're not going to let me fail on an ongoing basis. Yeah, is there going to be some daily failure? Absolutely. That's part of the process. But are you going to be there? Yep. Each day.
Yeah.
Each day. So I love that you push those values out, because I think when leaders speak their values to the world, I think one, it holds you accountable.
Yeah.
Like, Kyle, you said these were your values. I'm not seeing them on a day-to-day basis, but because you're putting them out there, the rest of us can't see that you are living by those values.
Yeah.
Each day we walk into this gym.
Cool. Paul, you like to read.
I do like to.
I like to read, and I love to learn.
Yep.
And I'm guessing as a superintendent, you have spent a couple of minutes reading. So tell us what and why your maybe 2 or 3 books that have been transformational for you in your life.
Yeah, there's been quite a few. As a superintendent, as somebody who just wants to learn more and more, mainly in the field of education, I dive into books on a regular basis. Right now, I just finished a book called The Violence Project.
Okay.
So all around mass shootings throughout the world.
Right.
Fascinating, understanding. These are 2 researchers who've just taken an immense amount of time, actually connected with people who've committed these crimes, and really try to connect and understand the why behind it, trying to see that, here's the crazy thing. What they keep coming down to, especially around school shootings, is we can fortify our schools all we want. But it still came down to relationships.
Sure.
Each of these young people, and they mainly are 15 to 21-year-olds who've committed these heinous crimes on schools around the United States and throughout the world. It is still this lack of belonging, lack of connection that these young people are facing. It's mainly white males who've committed these crimes. So we really need to look at those pieces, and that's the type of literature I love to dive into.
Yeah.
I also love history. I'm reading a book right now on Abraham Lincoln and his 15-day journey from the time he was elected to getting to Washington, and just understanding the complexities of him. But for me, Abraham Lincoln is one of those individuals that I always look to because of his many failures. We all think of him, as this incredible 16th president of the United States who was transformational in abolishing slavery. But this is a person who ran for Congress, ran for Senate, failed. And even when they had a list of, I think it was like the top 25 people that they thought would be running for the president of the United States, he was nowhere on that list. He wasn't even on the list. He wasn't even on top 25. But he came into power, but he also started to change his thinking as well. Early on, he was somewhat okay with allowing slavery to continue with the current states who had it. He just didn't want it to expand. He was willing to maybe make some sacrifices to not engage in a civil war. But he changed his thinking over time. It's those types of people I love to read about.
Yeah.
Because we don't all have it figured out right away.
Yeah.
So it's that type of reading that I just want to dive into and understand other leaders, what they do, how they do their work. Because I've stumbled, tripped, and fallen hundreds, if not thousands of times as a leader. So you try to learn from others and you take inspiration from others. So I'm diving into books all the time, generally in education. But I see the parallels of leadership no matter where I'm reading or what I'm reading.
Right. It's interesting. I was thinking, what have you changed your mind about? So let me rhetorically ask that for just a moment. But what I was thinking was, I was talking to a young person the other day, and they're maybe 15 years my junior here, so I'm 44. I don't think of myself as 44, so I can't believe that I'm as old as I am.
I'd give anything to be 44.
I don't look. I wake up pretty early, and my wife is still sleeping most of the time, so I don't turn on the light And so I don't often look at myself in the mirror. So it's a great way not to realize how old you're getting is to never look at yourself in the mirror. So,
Solved.
any of you folks who are worried about age, you just get rid of all the mirrors and things are fantastic. You're 21 the rest of your life. But I was talking to them, and it occurred to me that both of these young people I was talking to were really very certain. And we were having some tough conversations, and they were really certain about the pathway that they were taking. And in the moment, I saw myself in both of these young people, in that when I was 29, I actually got a great piece of advice from my great friend John Bruner, who works in athletics at the University of North Carolina. But when I was at the University of Notre Dame, and I was taking part in the Rosenthal Leadership Academy, and we were doing a retreat with a bunch of our athletes there. And one of the exercises was, I want you to text somebody that you know will tell you the truth, and I want you to text them, and I want you to ask them, hey, what's one thing that I do really, really well? And then also, what's one thing that if I was able to really change it about myself, I'd probably have greater impact or greater effect. So I text John. John and I met through a sports management institute, and we spent very small sections of our lives together, but now we're 5 or 6 years deep into our friendship, even though we see each other, maybe once every couple years. And John texted me back and gave me some really good advice. And I can't remember what he told me I was good at, because that's how that works.
That's exactly how that works.
Nobody remembers any of the stuff that they tell you you're good at. But John said to me, you might think about trying to be a little less certain about things,
Wow.
And that's still, right as I'm saying that, it flushes my body with sensory, pieces. And so talking to these young guys, to circle back what we're talking about, it was clear that these 29-year-old fellows are real clear about the path that they're on. They're certain of how the world works, that it's black and white. This is where we're going, and here's how things work. And I saw myself in them, and I just graciously said, yeah, no, I can see where you're headed. It makes total sense to me. Someday the edges may round a little bit for you.
Yeah.
The blacks and whites will turn a little bit more gray. And so to come back to the question that I started on, what have you changed your mind about?
That's a great question.
That you were certain about not too long ago.
Yeah. And it will seem somewhat surprising, but early on in my career, I was just adamant on the academic side of things for our kids.
Yeah.
Reading, writing, math. What is this social, emotional stuff?
Yep.
Why is that getting in our way? Why do we need that stuff? This isn't that long ago.
Yeah.
And just some other good individuals in my life helping me understand the power that those connection and the belonging have on young people, older people, everyone in between. That was a big changer for me, because I love the academic side of things. I love talking early literacy. I can bore anybody to death around early literacy and the work we do around professional learning communities, all of that stuff. But the piece that I said, it's kind of like what you talked about with your values. I put some of that stuff on the wall, but I don't know if my actions ever backed it up completely. And I really had to change my thinking around that, around day to day. No, it is one of the most important things that we do in education on a day-to-day basis, is connecting with our kids, connecting with each other, and making sure we're good to go. Because when we have that there, our students are going to be more apt to engage in the academic side of things when they have that trust, that relationship. And saying it out loud, it's like, no duh, Paul. It's just like walking in here. I had to have that trust before I would start doing any of the work.
For sure.
So that is really a game changer for me. And then, the other one is not judging that book by the cover, having so many assumptions about people, and really trying to make sure that shocking through this podcast, but I do talk less than I ever used to, and really listening to hearing the stories of others and making sure that their voices are truly amplified.
Yeah. This week, even as as a coach and as a teacher, which that's who you are too, you are often at the front. You're often and people are awaiting what you're going to say. And so you need to impart that. We were talking about Seth Godin before we hit record today, and I was listening to him talking about the 90 words that we say are the fat that protects the 10 words that we have to say, that are really the thing that we really want, but we fill the space to protect ourselves a little bit with excess words, and I really want to be a fantastic communicator, and I want to be able to give people so much. And my wife would say, and a lot of other people say, like, I just want you to listen, and I'm still working on that. And the one thing I try to remind myself, which I heard, I can't attribute it to anybody at the moment, but it certainly was not an original thought, nor are any of my thoughts original. So let's just clarify that. Whenever I'm talking, I think I'm working out whether or not I'm actually right at times. And what I think is really important for me to remember is that when I'm talking, I'm not learning anything. And so in order to be in a learning space, I actually have to turn that volume button off. And that gives me access to be able to learn all about you, about the things that I'm missing. And so I think for me, trimming that fat to getting to the piece that you really need, and then opening the space up for you to walk into it is a huge evolution in my own learning, but
mine as well.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's a huge gift.
Yeah.
To give other people that space.
For sure.
And that grace.
It's tough for a guy who coaches and leads and does all this stuff.
It is.
Right? I really do. Most people are like, you only want to be at the front. And I'm like, no, I wish I wasn't. I was.
But that comes with time, though, where because there was a time I had a much bigger ego where I needed to be out front.
Right.
I don't need to be out front. I mean, that's that thing that you learn over time as well.
Yeah.
You can lead from the side, you can lead from up front, but you can also lead from behind as well.
Yeah.
There's different ways of doing this. It's not this one size fits all. You got to hear from Paul or K.Y.L.E, or there are many voices that will be transformational.
For sure.
But that's hard to learn.
Tough. Well, what does make a great coach, Paul? What makes a great teacher a great coach? You got any of those?
Yeah.
I mean, thinking about Dominic, we talked about him earlier, and thinking about maybe other Deb, obviously.
Yeah.
Right. What makes a great leader in your life?
It's funny that we're closing out in that area. Honestly, I think it's all the things that we've just been touching on.
Yeah.
Dominic, there are many people. I mean, Dominic won state championships. He's just this incredible coach.
Yeah.
But people always thought he was just this arrogant, really just wouldn't talk to people. Yeah. But truly, Dominic was very shy.
Sure.
He was very quiet. But watching him on the football field with players, and as you were talking about Seth Grogan and those words, Dominic used very few words, but players understood exactly what he wanted, from defensive linemen to quarterbacks. He was the precision of his language, which I don't have. I have a lot of fat around my language, as you talked about.
Yeah.
Dominic was precise with his language. Paul, elbow up as I'm throwing the football. Flick the finger through. Yeah. That finger, you better tuck it into the pocket. And I knew exactly what he was talking about when he was talking to a quarterback or whatever it was. So he had this precise language about him and how he carried himself. But people thought he was this arrogant person, but truly he wanted to listen to others.
Got it.
And again, he carried himself, few state championships on that hand of his and other pieces, but he truly wanted to listen to other people. He wanted to be there. And honestly, his players, his coaches, his families would have done anything for him because he was just there. He was true servant leader. He was there to make the North Glen High School kids better, the Legacy Lightning kids better. Wherever he was coaching, he was all about just making people better and the situation better. And people still talk about him. I mean, Dominic's been gone, I'd say probably close to 20 years now.
Wow. And
I still think of him as that type of leader and that type of human that I can continue learning from. And his wife is very similar, very quiet, precise, but somebody whose lived experiences really mattered. And I think that's that other piece, those lived experiences. Why we trust you. You have many years of lived experiences in that CrossFit world that brings that trust to people. So those are the pieces that I think about when it makes a great coach. You also have to have that technical side. Yeah. Like you, helping me or any other member, like Dominic helping players. Yeah. You still have to have that technical piece. You can't just be relationships only. Yeah. It has to be that combination of that technique to be able to say, no, Paul, this is where I need you to go on this. This is what I need you to do. You lift your butt up here, over here, do this. And Dominic and coaches, and that's what I really learned from Dominic was how to coach better, how to really watch people, take a step back. And I saw you doing that today. You just kind of taking that outside bird's eye view of your class and watching each person and be able to say, okay, Nate's issue is very different than Paul's issue, and I'm going to coach up on each one. So you have to bring both. You can't have one without. You just need both of them, I think, to be a great coach.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. All right. So here's where I'm actually quite sad. What do we got? About another week.
We do.
So the good news is I sort of did venture into this earlier though, but you'll not be able to rid me out of your life at any point. So at some point I'll drag Marianne back out into the gym world when I get back out there too. But because my brother's there in Chicago, so we'll be back there, and we'll catch you, and we'll continue on the pathway. I'll be super excited to see you there.
Yep.
In St. Charles. So here's the. Let's get out of here on this. You are 55, you say. So it's
Wednesday.
Wednesday,
my big birthday.
Yeah. Well, that's right, the 22nd.
22nd.
Right? That's awesome. All right, and when are you leaving us? 27th, is that right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, 28th. 28th will be my last day in class.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this weekend, I do want to point out to folks too, this may come out, this will probably publish afterwards, but Paul being an educator, both of my parents were teachers, care deeply an awful lot about the mission that teachers play in people's lives. And we obviously lost two teachers along with it was 19 students that were lost in the recent shooting there in Texas, and unfortunately, this is just one of, as you mentioned, sort of a rash of these kinds of things happening. So Saturday, here in the box, we're going to get a chance to honor a teacher who was also a CrossFitter, a very passionate CrossFitter there, and do a workout called Eva Strong. So in memorial for Eva Morales. So we're excited about that workout, but. Going back to what I was saying there earlier, you're 55. Speak to that 35-year-old father of a son who's 6 and a daughter who's 5 and married and pursuing greatness in his own life. Like, what is it that you would offer that young version of yourself to say, this is the best I got for you?
I'd say slow down. Slow down, and it's hard to do in the moment. Slow down. Boy, it goes quickly. It just goes so quickly, and enjoy those moments. And I know we've all heard that from older folk like me. But it really, I was so busy moving up, and focused on Paul. There were some times, and I think Marianne would say the same thing. Like, dude, there's 3 more people over here. I was super focused. I wanted to become, at that point, I was like, I knew where I was heading towards the superintendency, and I was laying the groundwork for all of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, my advice to 35-year-old Paul would be, take a breath, brother. Slow down just for a moment. See what's going on around you a little bit more. Don't be so impatient. And again, that journey, it's such an important part of it. And I just wanted to get there.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why I'm enjoying CrossFit and Leaf more than I would have ever imagined, because I'm enjoying each day just coming in and knowing I'm going to struggle, but knowing that there may be days like today where, I do a personal best for myself. And I'm on that journey, and why I enjoy being a superintendent more, because I'm enjoying the journey and understanding, again, those connections to people. But yeah, that's what I would say to 35-year-old Paul. 35-year-old Paul also had hair back then.
Also had hair.
Too bad he didn't have a hair club for men or something back in that.
I did notice. I actually zoomed in on Dave's picture on his website because I was like, wait, it looks like Dave has hair.
Yeah, Dave's got a full head of hair.
He's got a full head of hair. Well, today, another personal best that you also achieved was that you actually got to the gym before Nathan. So...
That is shocking.
It was shocking to me too.
I know. We told Nate he's got to make it up. He's got to be in here at 3 a.m. tomorrow.
Well, I'm grateful to you for the time. I'm grateful for your friendship and the support that you and Marianne offered when we decided to, as a family, to venture off into creating a space where we wanted to add to people's lives. So. Despite the fact that you're going on down the road, you will forever be a brick in the building of this place, and right there at the base. So I'm grateful to you, Paul.
Well, and I'm grateful for you, Kyle, getting to meet you way back at Inner Circle and knowing that there was something truly special about you and wanting to continue to follow you on your journey. Trina, your girls, you're always going to be part of the Gordon family as well. It's just been an incredible journey, and I really mean this. I am more confident in my abilities because of Kyle, because of what you have done in this space and for this gym. So I'm so grateful for you, and I can't wait to continue learning from you and continuing our relationship.
Likewise. All right. Well, I'm grateful to you. We got a short bit left, and we'll make sure that we make every day sweet.
Love it.
Thanks for the time, Paul.
Thank you.
All right. If you want to check out more, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. We'd love to have you jump on. If you enjoyed what you got here, please leave a rating, and we'd love to have 5 stars if you can spare those. The podcast is brought to you by our fantastic partner O2 and Dave Kalina there, and we're just excited to have a great partnership based in values and serving people. So thanks for listening, and for more, you can always check out the Know Your Leading Edge podcast on every platform that you can find your podcasts, and visit us at leafgym.com for more. So have a wonderful day. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Know Your Leading Edge podcast with your host, K.Y.L.E. For more information or to check us out on the web, please visit leafgym.com. Learn character from the tree, values from the roots, and change from the leaf.